online community for positive change. Seventh Wave Network.
Good day, and welcome to the Simone Zone 1 with your host, John C. Mejia. Did you know the power of positive change is within your own imagination? Join us for the next hour as we explore the power of your creativity, inspiration, and imagination. Now, here's John.
Welcome to today's show. We're here every Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Voice America's 7th Wave channel. I'm your host, Jon Mejia, and today's program is called Life Empowerment, the Mace Method with Master Practitioner John Avery. A longtime friend of John Mace's, the creator of this process, John Avery is one of the premier practitioners and teachers of the Mace Method, and his insights into this unique and innovative energy psychology modality are quite instructive. Imagine being able to identify, address, and release your deepest upsets without having to verbalize and disclose the traumatic event. Then imagine that after only 1 to 2 sessions, long-standing issues are resolved so completely that you are never troubled by them again. Now, here's part 1 of today's program, Life Empowerment, the Mace Method with John Avery.
John, welcome and thank you for joining us today. We're speaking with John Avery from Australia, so we have a little bit of a lag. John, your work is called the Mace Method, and it's named after John Mace, the creator of the technique. Can you tell us how you met John Mace, please?
Okay, John. Our paths first crossed in about 1969. I just met him. I've done other things before the Mace Method, and we sort of became friends because we were both interested in types of counselling and helping people, and our paths have crossed, but I've really been close with John since the late 80s, early 90s, like during all his research. So I've had the privilege of going through every step with John, perhaps even making a few small contributions. Okay, John?
Lovely. And so you met him because you were both involved in counseling and helping people. What type of counseling work were you doing prior to the Mace Method?
Oh, what they call cognitive type of counselling, just getting people to look at things and feeling better, and probably listening to their story, and and just having a desire to try to help. But like the technology, the technology that we're using back then, I'm not being disrespectful, but I called it feel good therapy. Like it made people feel good, but over the years, John, I noticed that it didn't really change anything. The same problems would sort of come back either in a week or a month, and it didn't really redirect their lives as what people wanted. So I kept looking, and that's how John and I got together. I was interested in the same thing as him. We're looking for something that really brought about some positive changes. Okay.
Okay. And so when you met John, the work that he was doing, I'm talking about John Mace now. When you met him, the work that you found him doing was somewhat revolutionary in a number of areas. We'll get to those in a moment. So then you decided to become a practitioner of the Mace Method, or at that point were you more just learning what he was learning at the same time?
That is true. I went to visit John in Perth. I'm living in the Eastern States, but I was originally from Perth, where he lives, and he was very excited, and he said, "I found something new," and he did some processing, as we call it now, not counselling. He did some processing on me, and it caused some profound changes very quick in my life. And I suddenly realised, and I called me back. I said, "Hey, we've really found something." So that got me fascinated too. John, I said, I want to be part of this because it's what I'd had in my mind wanting to achieve for years.
Okay, very good. Now, I noticed that on your website, you call this work a, quote, new innovative form of energy psychology, end quote. Now, how is the Mace Method different from other forms of energy psychology?
Well, the very big point is it's like there's no self-disclosure by the client. In other words, we tell them that they don't they don't have to tell us anything about their private life. We're only interested in how things have affected them. Of course, the basis of all John's work is upsets that we've had, and that's very non-stressful. It's good for the client. I'd like to just add a quick story. I had a young lady come to me once. Her mother told me what was wrong. I think she'd been physically abused as a young girl and hadn't told her mother until the other person involved had died. She came to me, and she didn't tell me, but anyway, when I got to the department, I told this young lady, I said, we don't need to know anything about your private business. She broke down and cried, and I said, oh boy, what have I done? And I said, what's the matter? She said, I am so happy. I've been having therapy for 18 months, and I've told that story every month for 18 months, and I'm so happy I never have to do it again. She had one session at John's thing, and she never ever had another problem again. So that's what I call innovative.
Well, that is, and as a matter of fact, one of the complaints, if you will, is that people can become re-stimulated by revisiting past traumas or problems, and it would sound then from your process, and in speaking with John Mace, I understand that there's no self-disclosure, and so you then are able to work in images and metaphor. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, well, it's like you've got to find what's affected people. It's not what happened to them, it's the way that's the effect it's left on them. And when I'm explaining this to new clients, John, I say, we're not interested in what happened, we're interested in you, we care about you, but the only part of it that's come forward in life with you is how it made you feel. And once you deal with that, that's the end of a trauma or an upset. It's the feeling, see, so we tell them that feeling rolls through life like a snowball going down the hill, and it gets bigger and bigger, and collects a little more rubbish as it goes through life, and it finishes up controlling the person's life. And another way this is innovative, like these things that people have had for years and years, causing negative patterns to keep repeating in their life. 10 minutes of handling with this method, and all of a sudden it's gone. And I get the reports back; it's never come back. Okay.
That's fascinating. And how long have you been?
It is.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, carry on.
I was going to ask you, how long have you been a practitioner of the Mace Method?
Well, I've really been with John right from the beginning, so it's about 10 years now, and like the development during that time has been quite outstanding. Like John's probably explained to you, like, we realise that everyone has something very basic in their life, which you refer to as the ruin. It's the most damaging thing going on in their life that's sort of buried like a virus in their own computer, in their own person. And then, then relationships come along. So I've been with John, all these things just became self-evident as we went forward. So I've had the wonderful privilege of more or less being John's right-hand man while all this has gone on. So I'm very happy about that.
Well, and I'm sure that's why John also gave me your name and number, because he mentioned that you were from the beginning with him on this work, and so you're one of the premier providers of this sort of intervention work or therapy or whatever term you give it. Now, one of the terms that is also used in this work is called Causism. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah. Well, it's a coined word that John's put together. Like cause means to cause something. It comes from the aspect in life. You're either being caused over life or you're being affected by life. When you're being affected by life, of course, you're in trouble. When you're being caused, you're responding and dealing with things. And ism just refers to a bunch of principles that gets you to cause. And John's mission statement is to assist people to be in control of their own lives and live their own dreams. It's really a big statement, and when people do that, there's massive changes. So he coined that word so as people would not confuse this.
Now, in your work, again, there are two identities that you folks work with, and one is called a pro-survival identity, and the other one, which is apparently unknown to us, or it's subliminal, or it's unconscious, or what have you, and that's called a non-survival identity. How do these identities manifest in people's lives?
But like the pro-survival ones, bring you back the consequences that you want in life. You know, like we have identities. I'm sure you understand this from talking to John, but we have identities for everything that we do. Because we are energy or spiritually based, everything we do, we create an identity to do it. And the best quick example is driving your motor car. At one time you couldn't drive, all of us couldn't, but now we drive without even thinking about it. They're pro-survival. If somebody learns, a young lady learns to be a typist, and you see her typing looking the other way and never missing a key, I'm still astounded by that, but she has created that identity knowingly, whereas the non-survival ones have been created as a result of a trauma, and they're created so quick and they're not known by the client, but they're nevertheless, they're almost like a virus that's entered their own computer or their own being, and they're there affecting them. So, and they bring about all the negative consequences to life. Like when you're being yourself, you know, your true self, well, you're just responding to life and handling things, and we all have bad things that we have to deal with, John, as we all know. But then some people react very instantly to the smallest things and sort of add to the drama. I call reacting adding a little petrol to a fire. and so these are the ones that we address, okay?
I see. So the negative identities are things that all of a sudden, without your really understanding why, maybe you're feeling lack of energy, you're feeling unhappy, depressed, you're not your normal self is what happens. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, something's causing us. Something has caused that. I have a way of introducing this, probably a little different to John, but we all, John doesn't want any clones of him. Like when I get a new client here, I have to get them to understand the game of just creating their negative ones, and I have to make it real to them that we have these and how they affect us. And that would take a little while to explain to you, but I'm quite happy to run you through that if you wish, John.
We can get to that.
In this section, we'll learn how and why we put ourselves into negative states, how negative identities deplete your energy, motivation, and confidence, how to discreate these negative mental forms that we have created in our lives, and how to use your newly freed energy to pursue your goals and desires.
I am curious about your process, as you said just earlier, does not involve any self-disclosure. And so in this instance, what you're working with then is not the actual memory of the event, but actually how it's making a person feel and react in present time.
Exactly. And this is located by getting them into what's referred to in this technology as the worst moment. Every time we have an upset, there's one moment when it overwhelms you. There's the moment it affects you, and it's at that moment these things are created. And John most marvelously has put a system together to get people into that moment, and in that moment they can see it very clearly. They're not in it, they're sort of out of it looking at it, and then they can unpick it or take it to pieces and find the components that have been sitting there that they didn't realise that have been affecting their life sometimes for 30, 40 years. Okay? Now,
that worst moment is then analogous to the concept of the ruin. This is the ruin that you speak of.
No, from the worst moment, the ruin is discovered. You must get them into that. You must get them into that moment, and the ruin would be the feeling that's overwhelmed them and a negative decision they've made about themselves, which is all created in almost part of a moment. So quick, and the person's awareness is so slow that they're not aware. When we get overwhelmed, like with a big upset, we crash down and our attention's on ourselves and we're worrying about our survival. This is all by the time you flick your fingers, these are made, John. And then that's how we help people find their ruin, okay?
Okay, now that's excellent. Now, when somebody is doing this action that you're saying creates these states of ruin and negative feeling, are there images that are associated with them that are also very quick, that are somewhere there in the picture?
Well, when something's had affected you, I can only give you an example. Say someone had was constantly being sad, and that was part of their ruin, being sad, and perhaps in amongst that lot, deciding that I'm useless as well. There's two parts to it, of course, two negative identities. The sad one, and if someone's got that sad one, well, they're getting sad so easy, and things just keep making them feel sad. Now, the image part of it is, of course, we found that like, this is getting to the other part of the technology, is that the mind's only function is to create a mental image picture of anything that the person, the being, keeps their attention on. And we do this when we introduce it to people. We get them to think of dogs, cars, think about their mother, and the pictures keep popping up. And but when we get them to concentrate on the sadness and just think about them, because when they're sad, John, you can say to them, does this sadness happen quite often? Oh, yes, it's been going on all my life. I said, well, you change when that happens, don't you? And they say, oh, yes, you become different. That's the identity. Now, close your eyes and keep your attention on that person you become when you're sad. And sooner or later, when they understand what it means to their life, the mind does its duty and puts up some image, which is, in John's book, it says, and it's true, it could be anything from a donut to a dinosaur. The image is not important. What they've really got their attention on is the negative energy that's accumulated over time. And when they put their attention on that, they can slowly disperse it, because we are quite powerful beings, John. Does that explain it okay?
It does. So, in other words, that image that we bring up to equate to the emotion or the feeling, in this case, sadness, is something that it's almost tangible, something that can be worked with, because there has to be a way to put your attention on this beyond the normal sense of feeling that you have around the concept or the upset. Is that accurate?
Yes, see, that's like that concept causes a feeling in the person and causes them to change, that sadness, say, and they keep their attention on that. Their mind will dutifully do its job. The mind's only job is to create an image of what you have your attention on. The same as when we're laying down with our eyes closed daydreaming, we do see images. Whatever your attention as a being goes on to, your mind will create some image. But I was with John when this first happened. We were working together on this one day when this phenomena first came to light, and the mind creates an image. And those images, when they're found, they often get monstrous in size. We get people to keep watching the image once it appears. We just say to them, let it grow to its full size. Now, they're not making the image grow. They're becoming aware of how much energy they've accidentally put into that sadness. And it's got more energy than they have as a being, so it has been controlling them. But once they realise this, and once they can see it, they are separate to it, John. So then, when they keep their attention on it, they created it, and they're the only person on the planet who can discreate it. So just by keeping their attention on it with their eyes closed, so they're not using their eyes, John, they're doing a spiritual or an energy exercise, it'll start to disperse. You know, it's like they need the practitioner there just keeping your attention on it, and it slowly goes down. And as it goes down, you'll say, now, when it's really big, you say, now, how big does that seem? And I have people say as big as the world, but a lot of people say big as a house. I said, when you're looking at that image, how small does it make you feel? Not your body, you. And they say, oh, I feel like a little child, or I feel like a speck. And then as they watch the image disperse, if there's any magic, well, I suppose that's a bad word, but what happens is that energy, as that image goes down, that energy comes back to the being at the end of the procedure. We're saying, now, that's gone. When it goes, now, how big do you feel? Oh, good Lord. I had a lady here the other day, she said, I feel as big as this room. That's fantastic. So it's like they're getting their energy. It's almost like a bad investment they've made in the bank, John. They've put their energy, keeps feeding this sadness by thinking about it, and when they take that back and it disappears, it's like taking your money back out of the bank. I tell clients this, and then they say, now you've got your money back, what are you going to do with it? I say, well, that's your business. You know what you want out of your life. Okay?
Well, that's a very interesting two analogies there that I like. One is the bad investment, because obviously if you're putting your attention, energy, etc., which is your money into something that's going to lose, obviously that's never going to feel good. But also this idea of a monstrous size is really quite appropriate to some of the images of suffering that we seem to entertain as human beings for whatever reason. Now, do we know why we are predisposed to have these senses of ruin, and why do we put ourselves in that condition to begin with?
Well, the basic phenomenon is anything that we do not like, we tend to resist. If you're feeling good and something bad happens to you, and like in that story of how I introduced this, I covered that very definitely, all those points, because the client must understand. But once you resist something, even say a bad feeling, you can't see them, can you, John? But you can definitely feel them. When you have an upset, you can't see that what's happening to you, but you can definitely feel it. Mm-hmm. So the natural thing to do is to try to hold it away. But if you looked at anything on your desk or where you are, sir, even if you put your hand there, even to hold something away, you put your hand there, like metaphorically, you the being doing that, even to hold it away, you have to keep it with you.
Right.
Therein lies the trap. Once it's there, and then tie that in with the other piece of information that it's impossible to not think about something. We can't. None of us can do it. We can't not think about something, and thought is creation. So it's like them, like that's why John called the book "Don't Think About an Elephant," because I tell that to all my clients when they come. I tell them that little point: you can't not think about things, and I say, "Come on, try hard. Don't think about an elephant." They said, "Oh, that's exactly what I'm thinking about." I said, "That's funny, but if it was sadness or frustration or anger, now that's a whole different matter." And the more you think about it, the more it's almost like you're giving it energy. Your energy's going down, and it's going up. Yeah, that's the way I explain it. Okay.
Yeah, that works well. Now, these negative identities that we hold on to and are created through trauma and other things that are impacting us, they deplete your energy. They help make you lose motivation, lose confidence, and it seems that they oppose our dreams for what we want to accomplish in life.
Yeah, look, if it's okay with you, John, so I'd like to, that's when I say how I introduce this to somebody, it might take a few moments to explain it, but I can explain that to you fully and how I do my clients, and maybe your listeners will be interested.
Sure.
What do you think?
Sure, go for it.
But look, we'll have an example. A young man, madly in love, going to get married in about a month. He's probably dreaming, he goes to the goal, he's dreaming about building a house and having children. How good are you feeling, John?
Feeling good.
Yeah, now he's feeling wonderful. He's probably getting all the overtime he can at work. He wants the house yesterday, so to speak. The old boys at work might be saying, "You'll be sorry getting married, son." He's saying, "No, he's bulletproof, John. He's feeling so good." And an upset doesn't have to be this big, but say a week out from the wedding, something happens and she dumps him and calls it off. Now how small is he feeling? He's taken the crash, hasn't he?
Yep.
And it's not just the girl that's gone, the dream's gone. The world's dropped down around his ears. So now, at the moment he gets that message, whether it's an email, a talk, or as soon as that comes at him, when he realises that, he's feeling in love, he's feeling wonderful. Say, for instance, he did feel sad. Now, he doesn't want to feel that sadness. It does not mix with being in love. And he's always going to resist that sadness. He might go in the hotel a couple of weeks later and he's sitting in the corner drowning his sorrows, and somebody says, "Hey, Joe, what's up with you?" And he said, "Oh, she left me and she made me sad."
So when is a ruin not a good thing to see? According to the Mace Method, when the ruin is your own mental creation that is taking you down the slippery slope of fear, worry, and...
But like if we went back to the moment that she called off the wedding, is it even possible that she said, "The wedding's off and I want you to be sad"? Now, who's created the sad feeling, John? He has, hasn't he?
Of course.
Now we create something we don't like. Then we resist it. Accidentally, we don't know we've done this. It happens so quick, John. He's resisting it. Then he can't stop thinking about it, so he's creating it some more, isn't he? Then he resists it. I call it a spiritual trap he's fallen into. And like, that'll just hang around. That'll just stay there. That's the negative identity. And so we'll go back to the moment she called it off, however she told him. You know what I mean? She might have had a genuine reason for calling off the wedding. Most people get said, "Oh, she's terrible, she did it," see? When he said it was her fault, he was pointing the finger at her, but the sadness is not her creation, that's his. So at the moment he hears that news, he crashes and he's sad. Now his survival's at, It's not just the girl that's gone, the dream's gone. He's thinking, oh, by Jove, I've got to settle on the wedding off, I'm ashamed, and he's looking for a way out. Well, now he may decide in a pit of overwhelm, oh, well, he's looking for an answer, John, so this is one of 100. But say he suddenly said, well, I can't trust women, and suddenly feels a little bit better for a moment or two. It's like it justifies what's happened and gives him an explanation. But that's the decision about, I can't trust women. Now, once he takes that on, John, he is a different person altogether. He's no longer that boy going for his dream. He's no longer the boy, being excited. He might become cynical, non-trusting, maybe disrespectful of ladies, and he may become a drinker. Possibly, not always, but so that'll just, once he takes on that decision of, I can't trust women, let's look forward in his life. What chance has he got of having another good relationship, John?
I can see that, and of course it could be something else.
You got it?
I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, or some other issue.
Yeah, see, and he said, I can't trust women. Once he takes it on, see, with that, that's part of his being. I can't trust women. It helped him survive that moment, he thinks. But, what chance has he got of having another good relationship, and how many more upsets might that cause him going forward in life? Could he have a little argument with a girl? Could he sort something out? Or would he say, I know they're all the same? What do you think, John?
Well, obviously he's going to be at a disadvantage in his future relationship.
Now, to answer your question about the goal, what was his original goal? His original dream was a house and children. That excited the living daylights out of him. Now he's put his energy into that dream. But now he's put his energy into, I can't trust women. So it's very obvious, but I'm asking the question, this is for your clients, for your listeners too. Is that for his own dream or against his own dream?
Well, it's against the original. Yeah, it's against it.
Yeah,
sure.
So who's fighting? Who's fighting who?
It's kind of like
how much energy might that?
Yeah, it's like punching yourself in the head and wondering why it doesn't feel good.
You've got it. But this is what I explain to all my new clients. Now, it's like, what would that do to his motivation in the long run?
It would deplete it. It would stop it.
Yeah. Exactly. So you were talking about motivation and dreams and goals, and that's how it all ties together. We do ourselves in. Nobody else does it to us. And when you undo one of these on a person, I've had people jump up here and not want to finish the last bit. Their motivation comes back immediately. That is another magic aspect of what we do. That's why it's so enjoyable. And it's and all of a sudden, they're back in charge of their life.
I was going to say, so then by identifying these ruins and these worst moments and finding the concept that you have given, the meaning that you have given that experience, that's losing control of a very large part of one's existence. And you guys are helping people get back into control of their life through this process.
That's exactly right. And the last thing that's worth just adding to that, if you held your right hand up high and said that's the energy the being was feeling when he was feeling good, but then he puts energy into I can't trust women, so he's sort of invested like this is like the bad bank investment into I can't trust women. Say that happens a few more times and your left hand keeps going up and your right hand goes down, and that gets bigger and more powerful than the person. So what's running his life after that, him or that?
Well, it would seem that, but obviously that is also him. So at a certain level, it's just you're just compounding the problem, it seems.
He's making it bigger, and that is a negative identity. It's a persona that he's accidentally created. Yeah. I don't trust women. And once he decides that he will be that person, anything the slightest bit could trigger him and make him, oh no, there's another one of them, I better be careful. It'll inhibit him being himself.
Right. This reminds me of the story of Dr. Frankenstein, right? You create this creature, and then it runs amok, and we don't even know what to do about it. And that's exactly what your work is. It's identifying what this process is, how it is, and you allow people to find their own center or their own power by going to these images that contain the energy of whatever it is, sadness, depression, etc.
Yeah. See,
Now, it's fascinating work. So please, go ahead.
And it's so, there's another point, too, about the no disclosure. I've only become aware of this myself, John, it's worth mentioning, in the last month or so, that people in our field, like the poor psychiatrists and psychologists, apparently, from what somebody told me, and this seems very true, that they have a very high suicide rate. Why? Because they've got to listen to all these terrible stories and terrible things have happened to people. And so another very big aspect about being a Mace practitioner is that you're not having to put up with that trauma part. Like, you don't have to deal with that part. The people, the clients enjoy not having to tell the story again. And when they get to the end of it, like just in the last 2 weeks, I've had a policeman who's been on a pension for 31 years. I think he told me a little bit about it one day when we had a coffee. He was handcuffed to a tree and had a gun to his head, like trauma. He was let go from the police force. And we did our procedure on him, and he was quite happy. I know him quite well. And then he said to me, just casually, while we're having a coffee one day, he said, the anniversary's just gone past of what happened to me 31 years ago. I just laughed when I thought about it. He said, normally a week before it and a week after it, I'm a total mess. And he said, I'm not taking my antidepressants anymore. Now that thrills the living daylights out of me, John. That's what I'm doing, what I'm doing, okay?
No, that's brilliant. I mean, honestly, that's the sort of feedback that makes you want to get up in the morning and work with the next person. Now, this is interesting. Go ahead.
Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that, John.
Oh, I was going to say that
we're breaking up.
Oh, I apologize. I was saying that that's the type of feedback that makes you want to get up every morning and do the work that you do.
Absolutely, John. It's like the ultimate win-win situation. Like, I'm 77 years old. People say to me, why are you doing this? I said, I haven't found a better way of feeling better. I said, it's just, when somebody has a win, when somebody finishes one of these things and you see them take control of their life, if there's something better to do, I haven't found it, John.
Well, that's a very good point. Now, let me ask you this. Unlike other energy psychology techniques, where people work on themselves, I'm referring to things like the Roger Callahan's work or Gary Craig's work with emotional freedom technique. In the Mace method, analyzing ourselves is not possible. Why do you believe that it's not possible to use these techniques on yourself? Well, that's pretty easy, actually. Like, you need the practitioner. There was a man, Leslie Weatherhead, wrote this. John may have told you this before, but it comes to mind. It's like this man wrote this in 1931. He said, you cannot look at your own mental processes. For to look at yourself, you need to use part of yourself, so you never see all of yourself, do you? Yeah. And I think he was brilliant. He wrote that in about 1930 or 31. But how that relates to what we're doing, like finding the worst moment in a trauma, you need somebody to hold you there. We don't actually do it. We guide the person. I tell them when they come here, I said, I might get a little bit bossy, but I assure you it's with love. We've got to keep you in this moment to find the contents. The contents are only available in almost like a split second, and we've got to keep you there. Now, I defy someone to find this thing, hold themselves there and find those things, because they'll be overwhelmed with the feelings of what's there, because there's lots of other feelings around. You've got to get the core feeling, and we know how to do that. And if all the other feelings come in, you would give up or get angry or do something, and it's totally impossible to do this on yourself. It runs so quickly, and the method cuts the time down that it takes someone to get back in charge of their life. And that's one of the features of energy psychology that is very attractive to many practitioners of different forms of energy psychology, but certainly a common denominator seems to be that issues, traumas, concerns, phobias, these things appear to be able to be dealt with. And when I say dealt with, I mean they are addressed and somehow they seem to be released, almost as you said earlier, magically in record time. I mean, my understanding is that some of the people that you work with, 1 or 2 sessions is all they need to get rid of long-standing issues.
That policeman, I spent about an hour and 10 minutes with him, and we did not just handle that trauma. We cleaned up relationships, some things he had problems with in his life, some of his other reactions to life. We have a 4-phase procedure that we use, and like he did the whole thing in that time, and like to go and have a coffee with him is a total delight. But I'd say, quite honestly, probably 8 to 9 people out of 10 require one session.